Hey guys, this is Huzaifa from my YouTube channel Positive Academy. Today we have a special guest named Payal Kapoor. She is also disabled. She is visually impaired and she is a speaker, a disability contestant, and she has just find opportunity in everything. She has never give up. Right? She has failed many times, but still now she has empowered so many people, and she's a speaker. She's a motivational speaker, and she's a consultant. So I welcome Payal Kapoor on my show.
Yeah, okay. So,
Let me
okay,
first introduce in the beginning. Hey guys, this is Huzaifa from my YouTube channel Positive Academy. Today we have a very special guest named Payal Kapoor. She is a consultant and a motivational speaker. So I welcome you, Miss Payal Kapoor, to our channel. You can just start.
okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. It's really, a great privilege to be here and talking to everyone on your channel.
Yeah.
So, like you just said, I'm a disability consultant. I'm a speaker. I do motivational speaking. I do speaking on topics that are relevant to the time. And I work with various kinds of people across section. We work with corporate organizations, with educational institutions. I work with citizens groups. The idea is to speak with people, to let people know more about how to work with people with disabilities, how people with disabilities live their lives, work, and do things like everybody else does. So this awareness is extremely important to be able to create an equitable space for people like myself who are disabled, and to be able to give them a space where they can not only reach their total potential, but also contribute to the society like everybody else does.
Yes,
So that's a little about.
yes, I heard that at the age of 20 you become disabled. But what made you do that? I mean, how you become disabled at the age of 20?
So when I was 22, I had just passed out of my college. I was studying hotel management. I had just passed out of my college and had been working for 2 years at a five-star hotel in my city. And I fell ill. I had something like today, if you look at it, it might seem like it was strange, but apparently it does have a name. It's something that's called intracranial hypertension. And at that point, it was not diagnosed. So what happened was that my spinal fluid pressure increased and it hit the sensory part of my brain. So I lost all my senses within a matter of days. I went from being totally sighted to being totally blind. Over a period of time, I lost my ability to be able to hear. My sense of taste and smell went. My sense of touch became difficult to be able to work with. So in a matter of about, I think, a week or so, I lost almost everything that I had until then. So this was something that remained undiagnosed despite a lot of tests and a lot of, long days of being in a hospital. I was in a hospital for almost a month and a half. And in spite of all that, they weren't able to really diagnose what happened. So this was also something that became a medical negligence,
Yes.
because had they been able to catch it at time, I think it would have been probably the outcome would have been different, but unfortunately it wasn't. So that's what happened to me. And that's how I lost my eyesight. Today, in fact, strangely, today as we do this recording marks exactly 31 years to the day when I first fell sick. It was August 6th, 1992,
Oh
when I
my.
first fell sick. So it's
So
31 years since that happened.
so it's exactly the same day we are recording this.
Yeah, there's a lot that has happened. Yes, so it's a long time. In fact, I think if I'm sighted, I was sighted for a shorter time, and I've been blind for a longer time. So there's much that has happened in the meantime, and lots that I've been able to do with a lot of support as always, from family, from friends, um, from people who I've met along the line to, help me understand my life as a person living with blindness, and
Yes.
as a person who's been living her life with partial hearing impairment. So today, after 31 years, hearing, which means I can hear from my right ear, but I don't hear from my left ear. And my right ear hearing ability is also not 100%, but it's good enough for me to be able to manage and be here with you having this conversation amongst doing all the other things that I do.
That's amazing. That's really great. You are such a source of inspiration. Life is a journey and everyone suffers in life, but very few stands against the odd and you are one of them. So what made you stick to the path? I mean, you never felt like giving up after suffering a
Oh, yes, lots. I feel like giving up even today after all these years. I still feel like giving up. It's never easy. It's never easy. Whether it's in my life is different. There's a disability. And like someone was telling me just yesterday that, when you've been sighted for 22 years, where all your concepts have been in place, where your life has a particular path, all your senses are fully developed, all your abilities and skills are fully developed, and you lose your eyesight, or for that matter, any other sense, what happens to the brain is very, very complicated because your brain has to recalibrate completely.
yes,
It has to start from the beginning. It has to start with probably, some things that have been shut down, and you have to look at ways, maybe create a bypass in the brain, the physically what the brain is doing, as in physiologically rather, what your brain is doing, plus everything else that you're feeding the brain. So it's an entire rewiring, an entire recalibration that happens. And in that time, there is a lot of doubt. See, because I was deafblind for a period of, I think, a couple of months, which is extremely difficult because I went from a person who was totally sighted with 20/20 vision and perfect hearing to somebody who couldn't see and couldn't hear in, a very, very short span of time.
yes,
So there was doubt, lots of worry, lots of concern about what's going to happen. And in fact, I never knew or ever thought that I'll even be able to come out of that entire trauma. But I was able to do that. And at every juncture where there was a new challenge, at every point where there was something new that had to be faced, where I had to upskill, I had to learn something new. I had to learn to walk. I had to learn to be a constant in my life because everything was dark all the time. I had to learn to put toothpaste on my toothbrush again. I mean, it was as basic as that. It was going back to being a child again, where your parents hold your hand and teach you how to put toothpaste on your toothbrush. But here, even my parents didn't know how to teach me how to put toothpaste on my toothbrush without eyesight.
yes,
So they were very, very, very small things to very big things that had to be redone. So obviously, there were many, many places where I said, no, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. This is not my life. This is not how my life was supposed to be. So
yes,
yes, of course, even now, when there are times are challenging, even now when I'm, faced with certain things that are really uphill and I can't figure them out in the first instance, the first instinct is to say, okay, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore.
yes,
So it happened.
yeah. And I also seen that you just started different kind of workshops, motivation talk you are doing, inspiring women and all those stuff because I just visited your site. You have a site also. Yeah, do you visualize your success?
Um,
Yes,
Lots of things. Actually, I think it's a matter of when one door closes, a new door opens. We all hear that.
yes,
Sometimes we hear people telling us, oh, it doesn't matter. If you've lost one opportunity, Don't worry, there's always another opportunity waiting for you. But it's very difficult to believe something like that. You know, when something you've lost, like let's say somebody is doing an exam and
Yes.
they've not cleared a competitive exam in the first instance, or they've not got the grades that they thought they should get to be able to get a good rank. The first instinct is to say, I can't do this, and I'm very, very disappointed about it. But there'll be someone who'll tell you, don't worry, try again. You
Yes.
might be able to do something better. But what is your mind telling you? Your heart is telling you, no, I tried so hard, but it didn't work out for me. I don't want to try it again. But it's for those people and for everyone else that I want to tell you that there is a second chance. Or not give up, or at least tell yourself, you want to take a break from it, take a break. But don't give up, because life has many, 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 many opportunities out there. You don't know which opportunity is going to come knocking at your door. That's exactly what happened to me, because I thought that it was all over, and that, you know, imagine for somebody who used to be able to read and write, suddenly I couldn't read and write.
Yes.
It was so scary. How will I communicate? How am I going to communicate with people? You know, my father used to be so concerned, what is going to happen to her if she forgets how to write? So he used to give me a piece of paper and he used to give me a pen, and he says, just keep writing your name so that you don't forget how to write.
Oh my God.
It's as real as that. But today, there are alternatives. I learned how to read and write Braille, which was so tough and it was so difficult. But I did it. I did learn to read and write Braille. Some years later, at that time when I lost my eyesight 31 years ago, there was no technology like there is today. Slowly, slowly, technology came. We all started learning how to use assistive technology, which is what we use as blind people, screen readers on our phones, screen readers on our laptops. And
Yes.
look at it today. 31 years ago, I don't think I would have ever imagined that I will be sitting in front of you having this conversation on a platform that I have logged in on my own. And it's a level playing field. So I always say this, keep your mind open to possibilities, keep your mind open to opportunities, because there's always something that's waiting out there for you. So that is what happened to me. I started with learning how to read and write Braille. I went for rehabilitation. After 6 years of complete denial, in 6 years, I had hoped that I will be able to see again. We went to doctors, we went to all sorts of religious places, and everything that could be done to hope to restore my eyesight, we did. But then you reach a point where you say, no, this is not happening. I have to look at what I can do to take my life forward, which is
Yes.
when I put myself into rehab. And that is where my life as a blind person truly began, with learning how to read and write Braille, those alternative methods, with whatever little alternative technology was available then. I learned how to be able to do things around the house. I learned how to cook again. I learned how to teach other people like myself how to do things. Mobility, I learned. I learned how to use my white cane and move around. So all of these things opened up doors for me. And you won't imagine, from a person who went to learn, I became a teacher myself in the same organization, because they hired me and they said, why don't you become a resource person and start teaching people yourself? Imagine, who would
Yes.
have ever thought that I would have been a blind person myself? And apart from being a blind person, I was sitting there and teaching other blind.
Yes. Yes.
So that is where my journey began. And after that, of course, I've done many things, because I kept saying no to, I didn't say no, rather. I didn't say no to any opportunity that came my way. It was very difficult also, because every time you think you've climbed one little hill, you'll see in front of you one big mountain.
Yes. Yes.
You have to climb that one too.
Yes.
So at every step, you have to keep going, keep going. That's how it happens, really.
Yes. So your journey was not so much easy, right? It was not so very easy path. It has its ups and
Not at all.
downs.
Not at all. But
Yeah. So
it
how?
wasn't easy at all.
Yeah. So how have overcome the challenges. Means you are doing some of the things, and people will see you, show you empathy, and they will just treat you differently because you are having some problems. So how you overcome that?
So I had basically people, there were many people who were doing things with me at different stages. There were different people who came into my life who helped me. Um, it was difficult. So I had initially, of course, my family was there because they were closest to me while I was still recovering and while I was taking those first few steps into my new life as a person with disability, as a person living with blindness. So it was my immediate family, my parents, my sister. I have a younger sister. It was my sister. And I had some very close friends who had been with me in college and, were working with me, some of them. So they were the first people who stepped in. And they were the ones who started helping me in the initial phase. And people tried, I had some friends who tried to tell me, why don't you learn Braille at that stage itself? Why don't you learn how to start walking on my own? But I said no. I mean, imagine having to take a cane and walk and things like that. So it was slowly, it was a very, very slow effort. But like I said, friends, they used to sit in. I had one friend who used to sit with me, and she used to read, because I used to love to read. I was somebody who could read anything from a pamphlet to a newspaper to a book to anything. I used to love to read. Suddenly I couldn't read anymore. So
Yes.
I had a friend who used to come. She used to stay and she used to bring a book and ask me, okay, so what do you want to read? She used to sit and read to me. Every morning, my mother used to read the newspaper to me because I used to be, updated with everything that was happening in the world. And suddenly I didn't know what was happening. So once I began to hear a little bit in 1 year, that
Yes.
also took about 8, 9 months to almost over a year before I could hear clearly enough from 1 year. And that's when things started changing because, once you start hearing also, then the world around you opens up a little bit. That's when then
Yes.
television, I remember that time, cable TV had just come in. So I had technologically inclined. So he took a speaker for me because I couldn't hear clearly on the TV. And I couldn't have possibly plugged headphones and sat next to the TV. So I had in those days, we used to have cassette players. So he took
Yes.
a cassette player speaker, small speaker, and he created like a connection from my TV with the speaker, in which case I could plug, the speaker would always be plugged in and the speaker would be in my hand and I could be able to hear, I was able to hear everything on the TV. So that's how I sort of, began hearing everything on the TV.
Yes.
And it was extremely interesting because this was a whole new world that had begun opening for me. So there were those kind of people there. Then, of course, the most important person was the person who rehabilitated me. He was my teacher, my mentor, my guide. He was a blind man himself. His name was Mario Thompson.
Yes.
So he had an organization, which is where I went for my rehabilitation. He was, I think, a very, very important person at that point in time because it was he who put me on this path of recovery, on this path of learning to accept my disability. So he was one person that was there. And as time went along, I kept meeting more people. So once I got into the community of blind people, there were more and more people that, joined in the entire thing, people who helped me make friends in the community of other blind people. And that's how my world truly opened up. It was like, you're going from a narrow stream and then suddenly the ocean opens up in front of you. And
Yes.
that's how it was. I met lots of wonderful people, a lot of blind people who guided me. So I could do important things, what was important, what I needed to understand, what I needed to learn. And slowly, as I started being integrated in that community, is when my journey of becoming a teacher myself for the blind people, becoming an advocate for rights of persons with disabilities, being somebody who could contribute to the community herself. That's where my journey truly began.
Yes, the most important thing where which I can determine is you never stop learning, and you never afraid to take new steps, right? That's what made your journey easy so
Yes,
far.
yes, 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 yes. My YouTube channel is it's my pride and joy. Actually, it's something. So, being a person from the hotelier background, I come from the background of hotel management, where I have
Yes,
studied how to be a hotelier. There was a lot of things that I learned over there. While my career was in the front desk, I used to be at the reception. But I always had a love for cooking, love for food. I used to, even as a student, I used to experiment with all sorts of cooking in the house. And everything that we'd learn in college, we'd come back and, want to show off also to people. See, I can do this.
yes,
I
yes,
learned this. And it's a great sense of accomplishment when you're 18, 19, 20 years
yes,
old. You want to
yes.
show people what you can do.
Right,
So I
right.
realized that I enjoy doing it. I
Yes,
enjoyed cooking for people. I enjoyed doing things for people. And at that point, when I became blind, I was very, very disappointed, because 3 years of such hard work I thought had gone to complete waste. And what would I do with it? And, although it helped me personally also when I was learning how to cook as a blind person, those basics that I had learned in the kitchen at college, the kind of training that we had, it came to really a great use as a blind person, because those basics were a foundation that I could build upon. So
yes,
here, what I was learning to do was I was learning those techniques and making use of them and experimenting with them and learning with them without using my eyesight. So there was a different thing. The basics were the same, but the technique and the safety factors, there was a whole lot of things that were totally new. So while I was experimenting on this myself and my own confidence improved, I realized that it was something that I could teach other people also. And
yes,
strangely enough, in the community throughout the country, people came to know that there was this one blind person through various groups. You know how interactions are, email lists, groups of people, from
yes,
one friend to another friend to another friend. So your network grows.
yes,
And suddenly I started getting calls for various doubts regarding the cooking, saying, Madam, I don't know how to make a chapati. My chapati does not turn round. My chapati won't puff up. What can I
yes,
do? How can I do time management? I am getting married. I have a job. How will I manage my house, my job, and my responsibilities at home? Suddenly, all these things started coming in. I want to cook this. How can I do that? How can I know whether my onions are browned? So these little things, and in an informal way, I had already started teaching a whole bunch of people how to cook. Um, it was very interesting, because there were friends who I used to talk to on the phone, and they used to be cooking over there, and here on the phone in my house, I used to be sitting on my phone and giving them instructions while they were cooking dinner.
yes,
Then that's how my complete, space of teaching people how to cook as blind people began. And then, of course, suddenly we all know the pandemic happened, lockdown happened,
yes,
everything stopped for everybody. And, there were a lot of blind people who were working in other locations, who used to order food from different centers, who had
yes,
dabbawalas, who had a cook, who had a servant who used to come to them, and things, and suddenly nobody could do anything. So that is when we have WhatsApp group for other people to learn how to cook as blind people, and they used to share recipes and tips. So somebody told me, why don't you start recording? There are a whole lot of young, new people who are new in the kitchen. How can you teach them how to do this? So I said, okay. So I thought I will record some voice messages and teach them, basic skills,
yes,
orientation, how you should orient yourself to your kitchen. So give them the foundation on which they can begin at the beginning. I did 2 or 3 of them, and it was very, very well received. People said it was very clear, and it gave them a lot of confidence, and it was something that helped them a lot.
yeah.
And then they started
I
asking,
also listened one of your episodes
"Are
on
you
the
did, is
YouTube
it?"
channel. Yes, and I find it so much interesting.
So you can also learn how to cook. So that's what. So the thing is that it began as Rasoi Ki Rahasya, which is the name of my YouTube channel.
Yes,
It's a podcast. So it began for people with blindness. But if you realize the instructions in that is for everybody.
Yes.
Any newcomer in the kitchen, any person who's learning how to cook for the first time. I was teaching, this a lot of parents whose children were going to colleges, whose children were going away and, learning were going to live on their own. Sighted people told me that, I heard your podcast and I gave it to my son or my daughter and told them, listen to this and it'll help you a great deal.
Yes.
So it was a sense of pride and achievement, because something that was supposed to be just 3 or 4 voice notes on a WhatsApp group.
Yes, is now turning into something different.
It became a video, a complete channel of over 100 plus video. I mean, podcast shows. Episodes, podcast episodes in 3-4 different playlists and things like that. So it became very, very interesting. And here is where I realized that education never goes to waste.
Yes, right.
Because all that I had studied in the 3 years of being a hotel management student, and I had thought that it was something that I had lost, was put to use here so effectively for a community who didn't have anybody to teach them things like probably I could teach them. With the amount of theoretical knowledge, with the amount of practical knowledge that I had, I was able to put it to use here. And I won an award also for it, for a Universal Design Award we won for this channel. And it's a very, very great achievement. It's a lot of sense of pride I feel when I think of my YouTube channel, Huzaifa.
Yeah, and it is said that that's why in the life the dots get connected. So your dots also got connected from various different aspects, from hotel management to different teachings that you had throughout your life. It's really amazing to hear from you.
It's true of anybody of us, Huzaifa. It is actually something that everybody can do.
Yes.
What one needs to remember is that there is absolutely nothing that is impossible.
Yes.
I don't have, I don't tell you that there are things which seem impossible can be done or can't be done. I won't say that, because it depends on a person's, if there are various factors. It depends on your abilities. It depends on your environment. It depends on your skill set and things like that. What I only say is, don't shut your mind to opportunity.
Yes.
Always keep your mind always open to opportunities, because it's sometimes when you think something simply cannot happen is when things actually happen. So you have to keep your mind open to opportunities. And I have a very simple mantra that I learned along the way. In fact, it was a realization that I had, where I learned that in every adversity lies an opportunity. When you think something cannot be done, try it.
Yes.
Don't simply leave it. Just look at it and say, okay, I cannot do this. Don't say no. Say, okay, let me try it.
Yes.
Let me put my hand to it and see. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't happen. But imagine the excitement and the thrill of success when you're actually able to do something that you thought you will never be able to do.
Yes, yes. Right.
That's essentially how everything works in life. You have to keep trying, keep trying. I mean, I'm saying this, it's not like I follow it all the time, because there are times that I don't want to do something and I tell myself also, no, I don't want to do this. So I leave it for some time, because at that time, maybe my mind is not in a space where it wants to do anything. So I just let it be. But then later, at some point, I'll approach it again.
Yes.
I take a look at it again and say, okay, maybe now I can try it.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but at least you have the satisfaction of having tried something and not simply let it go.
Yes, yes. I agree with you 100%.
So that's how things work.
Yeah, I have also seen that if person has some kind of like disability, then they are more into reading and writing. So why is it so?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Means if the person is having some problem, then they are just more into reading, writing, and learning as compared to the normal person when you just compare. Why is it so?
Yes. So even if things go wrong, even if you think that you have a problem or something like that, see, there's nobody whose life is without problem.
Yes,
Everyone has something or the other, some little big. Your problems are your own, mine are mine. There's nobody, you will feel like your problems are the biggest and mine feel like mine are the biggest, but there's no comparing those. But what is important is to understand that problems are a part and parcel of life. How we deal with the problems, how we learn how to overcome them, how we respond to those things is what is very, very important. And that is what is necessary. There's another thing that I always say in my talks and in my interviews is that, when you think that nothing else is working for you, remember that within you, there is a spirit that is larger than your abilities. It's larger. The human spirit is extremely strong, it's persistent, and it's resilient. So the human spirit is like, even if it is something that in your problems, you can't see it or you can't feel it. But if you give it the opportunity, that spirit, which is otherwise, sitting quietly within you, it'll come out much stronger, much, much bigger than you
yes,
ever thought at times that you need it the most. So believe in yourself. Believe in the fact that there is an energy, a spirit that is larger than any problem that life will give you. And take it for what it is. Take the spirit, believe in that, believe in yourself, and you will see how things start working out, how things change, and how things get better. Now, there are no guarantees. See, there are some things that are meant to be, there are some things that are not meant.
yes,
But if you've tried it and you say, okay, and if you fail, it doesn't matter. It's okay. You
yes,
fail once, you'll fail twice, you might fail even 3 times. But it's what I want you to remember is that failure is not something that defines you. It's the fact that you attempted, the fact that you tried to do something
yes,
is bigger than that failure. Because if that hasn't worked out, something else will.
yes,
Maybe there's something else. So
yes.
keep at it.
But people also blame other person, like they just blame circumstances. Doesn't is
Yes.
not working. People are not with us. I'm not having that surrounding. So, what is your advice for them?
See, you're human, you know,
Yes,
we're all human. And every human being has strengths and weaknesses. Some of us are weak in our minds. Some of us are weak in our beliefs, in our faith. Some of us are weak in our actions. So what do? We are not strong enough to own up to everything, to accept our mistakes and say, okay, I was wrong. It takes a very, very big person, and it takes a very, very self-aware and confident person to say, okay, I was wrong, and maybe what I said was not right, or maybe what decision I made was not right. So what do? When you can't do this, you look for a way out. You look for a place where you can place that blame. You'll say circumstances. It could be. It could be. See, I believe in all these years of how things have happened for me. I believe in being in the right place at the right time,
yes,
which doesn't mean that I leave all the responsibility to some other force. I don't. I keep trying. It's okay if it doesn't happen. You can blame anybody. See, when you are sitting here and you're talking, if I'm talking to you and I say, that time was not right for me, and that person didn't come in time, or that paper was all wrong, that person did something that made me, forget what I was doing. It's okay to be saying to everything, something to someone else,
Yeah.
because that's justifying my own self. That's justifying my own problems. But within myself, I know who's to blame.
Yes.
So it's okay. If it makes you feel better to blame somebody else, do it. But remember that you have to ultimately be honest to your own self.
Yes.
If you're able to tell yourself that, it's okay. What's important is to be able to forgive yourself, to say, I tried, but I failed. I won't try it again is also okay. I'll try something else is great. I'll try this once again is fabulous.
Yes.
Give yourself another chance. Forgive yourself for things that you haven't been able to do, for things that have gone wrong. I also do this. People keep telling me you're very hard on yourself, because if I'm supposed to do something and I'm not able to do it, I keep telling myself, gosh, I have to do this. I'm not doing it. How's it going to happen? And I'm feeling so guilty. So I remember a coach once telling me, don't be guilty. Because if you feel guilty, you're pressurizing your own self. And when you have to get back to the work that you're supposed to do, which you're not able to do right now, your guilt is going to stop you from being able to do it. Because what has happened, it has become a pressure on your mind.
Yes.
I'm telling myself, I have to do this, I have to do this, but I'm not able to do this. Oh God, how will I do this? What am I doing? I'm adding to that pressure. And in adding to that pressure, I'm creating a gap between me and that task I'm supposed to, get down to
Yes.
doing. So she told me, she said, don't be hard on yourself. It's okay. You can't do it right now. Doesn't matter. Give yourself time, but keep coming back to it. Don't just leave it and say, okay, I can't do it right now, so I'm going away. No, you keep coming back to it. Attempt how much ever. If you're studying, study a little bit. You might not be able to understand anything and everything or whatever it is. It's okay. Read a little bit. It didn't make sense. Doesn't matter. Close your book, go away, entertain yourself, free your mind, come back later
Yes.
and take one more look at it.
Yes.
So that is the important thing. You have to be kind to yourself. You need to forgive yourself, but keep at it. Keep trying. Keep trying. That's the important part.
Yes, we have 1 minute left, madam. So if you want, then we can just extend this talk, or else if you want to end, then we can just
I don't know. You tell me if you have something else, you can do it. Otherwise, if you want to wind up, you can wind up. Whatever works for you.
No, actually, I just wanted to ask if you want to add something, then we can go ahead a little bit longer. It depends upon you.
What more do you want? What more do you?
Some kind of motivation, inspiration from your end, because you are a motivational talker, sir.
So your 40 minutes are up.
Yes, it will be around 1 minute.
So
Next
then
20 minutes.
the same link to log in.
Yeah, with the same link, yes.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, I'll quit this and come back.
Yeah. So see you in the next
Okay.
episode.
Yeah. Okay. Keeps you independent is
Yes.
what is most important. So
Right,
this
right.
keeps us independent. So it's best. Okay. So
Yes.
now what do you want?
I would like to know about your motivational journey, how it started.
Okay. All right. And there are just a few words about whatever it is. I mean, of course, I will tell you what happened and how. Actually, I'm trying to think of what happened. It just started on its own. I think there isn't. Yeah. Okay.
Because you have conducted a lot of shows also. That's why I'm very much eager to know.
No, and I do see. I do the content also on my own, and I research and things like that. If there is something that needs to be spoken of in a particular way, I do my research and things like that. But by and large, yes, I think I went from a person. I used to be in as a sighted person. I was very uncomfortable being around people. I mean,
Yes.
in standing on stage. So I
Yes.
should begin there. I think I should begin there, and I'm trying to think of when I first spoke many years ago. Anyway, yeah, okay. So we can do that now. Are you recording or what? How's it?
Yes, it's recording. Yes.
Oh, all this is being recorded. You'll just cut it
No,
all
but
off.
I will edit. I will edit it the
Ah,
rest
obviously,
part.
obviously. Yeah,
Yes.
I know. Okay, so about my motivational speaker's journey, it's actually a very seamless kind of a thing. It's something that I don't even know really happened at some point in time because as a sighted person, I was somebody who was terrified of being on stage. I used to see all those faces looking at me, and I used to forget lines. Even in school, I remember there used to be competitions. Like I used to be in an elocution competition or in an oration competition or anything. I used to invariably forget my lines because I used to be looking at people and be so frightened of all the faces that are looking at you expectantly.
Yes.
But
We
suddenly I
all
realized one
we
day
all have that.
I had been
We all
invited
have
to
this.
come. I had been invited to a program, and they had invited me on stage to say something. And I had prepared and gone. See, because what happens is that when you're sighted, you've written your notes and you're taken, you can read a speech. But when you're
Yes.
not seeing, my braille was not so good that I could write a speech and read in braille that quickly. So I
Yes.
just jotted down a few points and I sort of memorized the order in my head. And when I went on stage and I spoke, I heard myself speak very confidently and very clearly and everything. And I came back and I sat and I thought back to myself, that wasn't difficult. It was so easy. Why was it so easy? I thought it was easy. I remembered that it was easy because I was seeing no faces. I was couldn't,
Yes.
since I couldn't see the audience. I didn't see their faces. So I wasn't looking at anything, and I was able to so easily speak to people. See, because speaking is not a problem. Being able to
Yes.
communicate is one of my strongest skills.
Yes.
And being able to use it effectively was something that I learned to do after I lost my eyesight. Then,
Yes.
once this happened, there were some other events also that came up where people invited me to talk about my journey. Like I said, once you start networking, once you start getting into the community, and you're a new person, everyone's curious about you. Everyone wants to know what happened to you, how did this happen to you. And for somebody like me who went blind so late and relived her life completely, it was of a lot of curiosity to a lot of people. So I was invited to speak first also within the community of blind people, where I was asked to talk to people about how this had happened to me and all of that. And I slowly realized that my talks and my life's journey actually had an impact on people. It sort of told people, it gave them confidence, it made them realize that there were things that happened, there were bad things that happened, there were difficult things that happened, but there was a person like me who was standing in front of them, who went from being somebody who couldn't see, who couldn't hear, who couldn't get up from her bed when she was sick, who was at home for 6 years before she even started her journey as a blind person, was standing here in front of them, absolutely just like everybody else, telling them that it was possible. So there was that impact. I realized that it had had a huge impact when people came to me and told me that, I can't believe I'm standing here in front of you and that you're telling me about your journey that was so difficult. It's difficult to imagine that you went through all of that and you're still standing here and you're
Yes.
able to talk about it so easily and so confidently that it makes us think of all the times that we are troubled by small things, little small things that happen, small failures, small incidents that happen in our lives. We turn around and say, oh my god, what am I going to do, what am I going to do, ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya, this has
Yes.
happened, what will I do? Here you are, that you've gone through such a big change in your life and you're able to talk about it and you're able to share your journey with us. That is how my entire journey began, my journey with motivational speaking, and realizing that even for myself, it was like healing when I was able to talk about it, because there were times when I spoke about it and I came back and I felt a heaviness in my heart. It used to feel very, very difficult because it was like, reliving those days. It was like I was
Yes.
reliving all that trauma, the memories, and everything. It was not easy at all initially. It was very difficult. But
Yes.
as time went along and I started talking about it in various ways to most people, I realized where I used to talk about the trauma, as time went on, I started talking about things beyond the trauma. I was able to talk to people about things that I had done to overcome that trauma, to overcome all the limitations, my learnings, all the new things that I was doing, because I was doing new things all the time. What happens to most
Yes.
of us is we end up not valuing what we do for ourselves. We
Yes.
always feel like, uh, so what? I'm just doing what needs to be done. But that's not true. You're doing what you need to do, yes, but you also need to value what you're doing. You need to be proud of what you're doing. So, what you
Yes.
need to do is not undervalue yourself, but understand that what you're doing is taking something from you. You're putting in effort, you're learning, you're training, giving it time, you're giving it energy. You should be proud of the fact that you've made the effort. So I realized that also, because every day was a new learning for me. I was doing something new and not talking about it. What most people wanted to know mostly was about how difficult my journey was. And, my entire hospitalization and losing my eyesight and the trauma. But I didn't want to be stuck at that. I started talking about all the small and big things that I did beyond that. Things like I learned how to walk, things like I learned how to do things in the house, I learned how to cook, I started walking outside. The funny things, like when people in the house and there was no electricity, people in the house, oh, everybody sitting and saying, oh, no electricity, where is the
Yes.
candle, where is the emergency light? And I'm walking around, happily walking around the house, no problem. Darkness, no problem. You can't see, so sad for you. Okay, I'll get you the candle, I'll bring the
Yes.
emergency
Yes.
light for you. So I was the person who was most useful in the dark. I was the person
Yes.
who knew everything. So no electricity, food is cooking. I can't cook. My mother used to say, "Oh, the current is gone. I can't cook." I used to tell, "Okay, you sit. I'm cooking. I'll cook today." So you start valuing yourself. You start giving yourself importance. You start telling yourself that I'm able to do so much that I
Yes.
never thought was possible. And you must celebrate those things. You must talk about those things. Share it with people. Don't feel shy. People will say, oh, this one's showing off. Doesn't matter.
Yes.
I'm not showing off. I'm sharing the effort that I've put in and my success or failure or whatever is the outcome of that. So that's how I realized that, and I saw the difference in myself. I saw the difference in my talks. I saw the difference in the impact it had on people. Because the first thing when people see, when you tell them that, oh, you were 22 years old when you went blind, everyone says, oh, so sad. I didn't want people to say so sad. I don't want sympathy. What's the use?
Yes. Yes.
It's not going to change my life. What I want you to celebrate with me is the fact that I'm standing here after having done so many things over the years, after having learned so many things, after having upskilled, having gone back to doing things, learning the basics of reading and writing in a totally different way, to being able to do so many things for other people. That was my journey that I spoke about slowly, slowly. And every time I speak, there is a new aspect that I have to share with people. There's something new I've done that I'd like to share with people. So that is what makes it motivational. That is what I realized made a difference in people's lives. Not the fact that I had fallen sick, but the fact that despite having fallen sick, I was here, having done so many things, having learned so many things, having set aside so many other hardships and difficulties, and had come here on the other side as a triumphant individual. somebody who set aside so much else and was living life like everybody else. So if you look at it, what is different? The only thing that is different is that I can't see. But I do everything like everybody else does. I cook
Yes.
like you. I'm here on the same platform with you, doing the same things you are. I'm using
Yes.
technology. I'm cooking. I'm traveling. I'm going out. I'm using the phone. I'm using all the apps that you use in different ways. So, how's it different? The only difference is that my body has an impairment. And if I'm not able to do something, is because there is a barrier that the environment around me has created. Now, it could be an inaccessible space, like I have to climb somewhere, but the steps are very high, or there is no railing on the side that I can hold and climb, and I cannot see. So, if the path is not clear, it's a problem. If technology is not accessible, if this app that you and I are sitting in using, or this platform you and I are using is not accessible, and I'm not able to be with you on this, means it's inaccessible. It's not that I cannot do it, I can do it.
Yes.
But what is stopping me is the fact that this platform is not made accessibly enough for me to be able to work with you on it.
Yes, that's
So
why it is said that the only thing that is stopping you from being you is you yourself.
absolutely, so true, very well said. It's absolutely true, because the our energy and our what's it called, abilities are boundless. What we need to do is believe in ourselves and tap within the resources, tap those resources that are within us. And
Yes.
as many failures, as many defeats, I'm continuously saying this one thing: you might fail, you might feel defeated. It's okay to it's okay to feel defeated, it's okay to fail. It's not okay to give up.
Yes.
That is the most important thing. So as long as you can hang on to the faith that everything you need to do is there within you. First, you believe in yourself. Then you reach out to people and places wherever you need help. The minute you say that, there'll be lots of people who come to help. Those people who don't come to help you and don't want to do things for you, you can just let them be, because it's not about you, it's about them.
Yes.
Why they don't want to help you could be their insecurities, could be their inabilities, could be their envy that they don't want you to succeed. There could be 100 reasons for that. But when you reach out, there'll be at least that one person who'll come to help you. But you have to ask for it. The other person cannot dream up. So you have to believe in yourself. You have to put yourself out there time and time again to be able to accomplish something.
Yes. Yeah, so that's
That's
it
the
for
only.
my yeah, so that's it from my end actually.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Huzaifa.
Yeah.
I hope your listeners find this useful, and I wish
Yes.
them all the best. And I want
Yeah.
to tell everybody to continue to dream. You must dream, and you must
Yes.
reach out for the stars.
Yes. Thank you for being on my show and thank you for coming. It's really great to have you as your guest.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, ciao.